Today I'm going to be ranking every song on Detour by Petras. Petras is an artist who has released a number of EPs and mixtapes and stuff up until this point. But personally, I never really paid her all that much mind. I guess, her specific style of raunchy pop music was never really something that clicked for me. Until this album, which is being considered her debut LP, and it goes in a much more overtly hyperpop direction, which is something that I'm always curious to hear. And it got a lot of buzz, and so I felt like I had to check it out and talk about it. So yeah, let's get into the track list. At number 13 is going to be 101. This is the song that stood out the least on the album for me. It is produced by Frost Children, and frankly, it just basically sounds like a Frost Children song with Kim Petras over the top. It's basically exactly what you'd expect from that combo and nothing more. At number 12 is going to be Bitch Ball Out. This has some of the blandest lyrics on the album and some vocals from Kim that I found to be honestly kind of tedious. At number 11 is going to be Check It. This is a short but sweet song with Frost Children once again in the mix on the production side, but this time I find that it just goes over a little bit better than it did on 101. At number 10 is going to be Detour. This one serves as a pretty effective opening mission statement for the album, both sonically and lyrically, but in just the context of stacking it up against other songs here, it's nowhere close to the most memorable or impressive one. At number 9 is going to be I Like Your Look, and this is another catchy and sweet hyperpop song that in a vacuum I definitely enjoy quite a bit. However, there is sort of an elephant in the room with this song and with this album overall that I have not addressed yet. And that is that this song and many others on this album are basically just Charlie XCX songs. I mean, this goes beyond the level of inspiration or influence to the level of borderline plagiarism. Everything here, from the beat choice, to the auto-tune vocals, to even just the little details of the production and the song structure and the way various parts are mixed, are all like this extreme imitation of Charlie XCX. And this song, to me, was the most extreme and distracting example on the album, but this sort of imitation is all over the place here. And while yes, I do definitely love Charlie's music, and I'm down to hear other artists do stuff in this style, it does somewhat detract from my enjoyment of the music when I'm literally sitting there going like, okay, if you introduced this to me and told me it was a Charlie song, I would not bat an eye, because it just sounds exactly like something that she would do. At number 8 is going to be Basketball, and I think what stands out the most about this one is that it features production from the late, great Sophie of PC Music, who of course was one of the founding influences in the hyperpop scene. And Kim takes that production and basically creates a song that feels very much like just a classic PC Music track. And as someone who enjoys that sound, I enjoy this song. I like the basketball-themed lyrics and the repetitive little hook section, even if at the end of the day this isn't one of the catchiest songs on the album. At number 7 is going to be Korea. This is the slowest and most introspective song on the album, and it definitely has a pretty solid tune and sounds a lot like one of the quieter moments off of a Charlie XCX album. At number 6 is going to be Freak It, and this song basically sounds exactly like what you would expect from hearing that title. It is a maximalist pop song with these fat synths and club beats and some sounds looping in the background. Yeah, it's pretty freaky, not even gonna lie. At number 5 is going to be Jeep. This one is basically Kim's take on a cliche guitar pop song, complete with lyrics about meeting a guy at the bar and driving around in a Jeep. This is definitely an unlikely sound to hear popping up on an album like this, It's not really something that I expected going in, but I think she puts enough of like a Brat era Charlie spin onto the song to make it enjoyable and not cringy like many songs in this lane often can end up feeling. At number 4 is going to be Need for Speed. This is definitely one that I'm going to be listening to many more times. It has this great hypnotic beats to it, and it might not have the most unique chord progression in the world, but it's just too sugary and catchy to resist. At number 3 is going to be Brutalist, and this one eschews the party vibes for something a lot more personal. This is definitely the most lyrically substantive song on the album, where basically on the surface level, she's talking about going on road trips with her dad and learning about this brutalist piece of architecture along the way, and then being sad when that piece of brutalist architecture gets torn down and replaced with something more standard. And, that on the surface is an interesting story, but there's also obviously a lot more going on below the surface where this architecture becomes a metaphor for gender identity and expression and whatnot. At number 2 is going to be Polo. This one is definitely a standout with its razor sharp, Sophie-inspired synth leads and these very explicit lyrics. It feels deliberately very trashy, but in a self-aware manner, very similar to like what we heard on that new Slater album. And in my opinion, the production choices on here and the tune are every bit as good as some of the highlights off of that Slater album. But at number 1 is going to be DTLA. And honestly, I'm surprised this one wasn't a single because it's kind of just like the perfect pop song. It has a little bit of everything that makes this album enjoyable. It's glitchy, it's bassy, it's got these sugary, sweet, auto-tuned vocals, but most importantly, it is relentlessly catchy and will not stop playing in your head after you listen to it. I think this song would be perfectly at home in the playlist for any number of LA parties, and I think it would be one of the ones that would really get the people going. And so yeah, that's what I have to say about this new Kim Petras album. Overall, I did really enjoy listening to it. I just wish that she had been maybe a little bit less obvious about her influences, or I guess in this case, her influence. I also really hope that in the future we can see a little bit more lyrical depth from her, like more songs like Brutalist and fewer like 101. And with that said, tell me in the comments if you disagree with my list, and thank you for watching.